Hello and welcome. You're watching Business Plus. I'm Shweta Kothari. We're bringing you stories from the world of business policy and economy. First up, let's take a look at headlines. Unwilling to fly with just 6 people, IndiGo Deboards passengers tricks them with the promise of alternate flight, leaves them stranded at the airport. Over 500 employees of OpenAI threaten to resign, give ultimatum to the company's board of directors to step down. Enforcement Directorate files charge sheet against Amway India, claims Amway generated 4,050 crores through cheating, siphoned off 2,859 crore rupees overseas. And fresh formal job creation cools for the second consecutive month, declines to 6-month low in September as per EPFO data, signalling a downturn in the labour market. India's non-basmati rice exports dropped by 57% in volumes and 60% in value in September. India is likely to extend rice export curbs through 2024. All those stories right here on Newsline Business Plus with me, Karthik Malhotra. Hi Karthik, good morning.
Good morning, Shweta.
Let's begin with our top story that we're tracking coming by the way of IndiGo. It appears that many of the passengers, at least 6 passengers for sure, have complained that IndiGo did not fly them from Bengaluru to Chennai, deboarded them, tricked them that there is an alternate flight waiting for you, but that never happened. They had to wait at the airport for overnight.
That's right. So what really happened, Shweta, what we've been made to understand, and of course there is a Times of India report that got published early this morning, and then we spoke to somebody at IndiGo, and what IndiGo has been able to confirm to us thus far is that there was a flight coming from Srinagar to Amritsar, Amritsar to Bengaluru, Bengaluru to Chennai. These 6 passengers in question who were deboarded were already sitting in the aircraft coming either all the way from Srinagar or from Amritsar. But when the aircraft landed in Bengaluru, the aircraft was already delayed, and this was due to congestion, according to IndiGo, at the Bengaluru airport. Now, as the aircraft touched down, it was also the departure time for presumably another aircraft from IndiGo from Bengaluru to Chennai.
Okay.
So what IndiGo decided to do apparently was move these 6 passengers to the other aircraft, which was in any case scheduled to take off at that time from Bengaluru to Chennai. But there were apparently 2 senior citizens among these 6 passengers who were deboarded with this assurance of accommodating them on the alternate flight leaving for Chennai at the same time. But they did not make it in time to the other aircraft, and that flight from Bengaluru to Chennai took off. Now, what happened as a result of that was that these 6 passengers were brought back into the terminal.
Okay.
Now, according to some of the passengers,
That is what the airline is saying.
that is what IndiGo is saying.
What are passengers
What
saying?
passengers are saying is that they were deboarded because all these 6 passengers, one by one, got a call on their cell phones from IndiGo suggesting that they need to deboard because there's another aircraft which is going to take them to Chennai. They deboarded and they were brought into the aircraft, into the Bengaluru airport terminal, and at that point, there was no other aircraft which was going to take them to Chennai. As a result of which, they asked for accommodation at the Bengaluru airport hotels, which apparently was denied to them, according to one of those passengers, and only 2 out of these 6 passengers were accommodated in a hotel 13 kilometers away from Bengaluru. All 6 of them, however, were able to depart the next morning. All this happened, in fact, Sunday night.
Okay.
All of them were able to depart for Chennai on the first flight on Monday morning. Now, the allegations yesterday morning. Now, the allegations that the passengers are making to the airline suggest that the airline did not want to fly a full aircraft with only 6 passengers, while all 6 of them did have confirmed tickets all the way to Chennai. But the aircraft, according to them, did not see merit in flying an aircraft with only 6 passengers. There were false assurances made to them when they received those phone calls sitting inside the aircraft already on board, ready to take off to Chennai, that alternate arrangements, flight arrangements have been made and another aircraft is going to ferry them. And to cut a long story short, they were pretty much stranded at the airport all night. 2 passengers accommodated outside of the 13 kilometers away from the airport, and remaining 4 spent the night at the lounge because the airline denied them accommodation at the airport.
And looking at the entirety of the sequence of events as it has unfolded on the basis of what the passengers are saying and what the airline is saying at the moment, is there an obligation for IndiGo to in fact fly these passengers if they have been booked on a certain flight on a certain date?
So I think there is no doubt that the airline is obligated to fly passengers who have a confirmed ticket. However, does the airline have the right to cancel a particular flight or cancel a particular schedule? I think the airline is within its right to cancel any flight for any reasons, but those reasons I believe need to be stated, and there needs to be enough communication with DGCA informing them why a particular flight has been cancelled. I'm not sure if that has happened. We are still awaiting a statement from IndiGo. In fact, we spoke to some people at IndiGo this morning. A statement from IndiGo was supposed to be issued by around this time. It still hasn't come in. In fact, our request to invite an IndiGo senior management executive on this show to discuss this issue with us has also been denied for the morning. We are hoping that this evening we should, we should be able to get somebody with us. But however, I think the point is the passengers alleging that the airline cancelled that flight because there were too few passengers, only 6 passengers in an aircraft that can accommodate upwards of 160, 180 odd people, and hence the airline perhaps did not see merit in flying almost an empty aircraft. The airline saying that we were trying to accommodate these 6 passengers on another flight which was scheduled to depart from Bengaluru to Chennai at the same time. However, they were slowed down perhaps because of senior citizens. This of course is source based. This cannot be attributed to the airline yet. This is somebody I spoke to this morning who has confirmed that the airline's intention was to accommodate these 6 passengers on another aircraft, IndiGo aircraft, which was going to take off for Chennai around the same time as this airline or this aircraft was originally scheduled to take off. But that could not be delivered to the 6 passengers, and hence these 6 passengers, one of them at least, coming out in public and really raising and voicing their angst.
All right, that is as far as the IndiGo saga is concerned. About 6 employees who were slated to leave Bengaluru, reach Chennai on Sunday evening, could not do so as they were deboarded. IndiGo says that there was an alternate arrangement made because some of these passengers were senior citizens. They could not be transported just in time to the flight that was supposed to ferry them. They had to spend the night at the airport. So far, IndiGo is saying they've done everything possible. We're hoping to get a statement from IndiGo very, very shortly. But shifting focus to a story that has emerged since Friday, has taken the entire tech world, AI world by storm, which is the exit of OpenAI's co-founder, Sam Altman. We now know for sure that he has been roped in by Satya Nadella, Microsoft, but about 20 to 30, in fact more than that, a lot of employees of OpenAI are now saying we're going to go with Sam Altman, we're going to join Microsoft if the board does not resign.
So, Shweta, I think, we headlined this yesterday saying that 3 days, 3 CEOs, and that is something that got mirrored later in the day, even in a report by Bloomberg as well as by Reuters, that 3 days have seen 3 new CEOs / interim CEOs taking charge at OpenAI. Now we also know, like you mentioned, that I think pretty much with great agility, great dexterity, swiftness, Satya Nadella moved and really got Sam Altman on board Microsoft. And Satya Nadella, we've been made to understand, was the man. Microsoft was the company, the set of investors who, after Sam Altman's ouster from the company as CEO, were batting for him and really pushing for reinstating the board at OpenAI to reinstate Sam Altman as the CEO. And that did not happen. And I think the dexterity with which Satya Nadella moved and Microsoft as an organization moved,
win-win for Microsoft.
It was definitely a win-win for Microsoft, and got Sam Altman to lead the AI initiatives at Microsoft. Now, what happened immediately after that? 500 out of 770 employees at OpenAI, excluding Mira Murati and 2 other senior management folks at OpenAI, 500 out of 770, excluding these 3 senior management positions, have actually asked for the board to resign, the board at OpenAI to to resign, and they're saying we don't want to work in a company where the board is not in sync with the mission that we are on, and that mission being about making AI and research in AI open, transparent, accessible to all, etc. So that's the letter. In fact, if we can pull that letter up, and this is the letter which has been circulated widely on social media, written to the board of directors at OpenAI, asking for the board to step down, because these are the same employees who had initially expressed shock and had expressed anguish and wanted Sam Altman as well as Greg Brockman, the co-founder of OpenAI, to be reinstated, and that never happened. And now that Sam Altman and Greg Brockman have both joined Microsoft, these 500 out of 770 employees at OpenAI are threatening to quit unless the board resigns. And if they quit, no points for guessing where are they headed to. In fact, they've only openly mentioned that they would prefer heading back to Sam Altman and Greg Brockman and perhaps work at Microsoft. So all this is happening also at a time when Salesforce CEO in the US is also expressing some sort of a move towards instating some of these employees who are at the cusp right now, not willing to continue working at OpenAI, and some sort of an arrangement there is also likely to come through in coming days, with Salesforce also opening itself up to this whole AI revolution and perhaps wanting to get a chip off the block and get some of these 500 employees there. Now the question is, will Satya Nadella, will Microsoft really accommodate 500 employees? I mean, it's one thing getting Sam Altman and Greg Brockman, but will it really be in a position to accommodate 500 employees?
But if not 500, let's not forget Satya Nadella in a statement that he put out yesterday after signing Altman in, saying that we'll give you the necessary resources needed to run a company or run an organization. Yeah, but I think in the same statement, Satya Nadella also mentioned that their partnership with OpenAI continues unabated. So at one point, you want to continue your association with OpenAI and the $10 billion that you've invested there, though some reports indicate that not all that money has in fact hit the accounts of OpenAI. Will it now hit the accounts of OpenAI? We don't know. That's a good question.
But then another 500 employees threatening to quit unless the board resigns. Will they quit? If they do quit, will all of them be accommodated at Microsoft? And if not at Microsoft, is Salesforce now emerging as this new AI power? So these are the dynamics at play. But I think one pertinent question that arises is that after all this, 3 days, 3 CEOs, exit of Sam Altman, exit of Greg Brockman, entry of Emmett Shear, the former Twitch CEO, as interim CEO to lead the company OpenAI, and with this potential exodus of employees, is OpenAI not going to stay open for business, and is it going to be a closed for business operation? Right. That is something that I think coming weeks, coming months are going to shed the light on very clearly. But I think one can assure everybody out there that the entire AI battle is heating up like never before. And not surprisingly, Microsoft stock in trade on Wall Street last night
that's interesting.
hit an all-time high, up 1.5%.
Actually 2%, closed
1.9%, yeah, you're right.
Closed about 2% higher. Interesting turn of events. I think in all of this, if we one word to sum it up, and there are lots of theories floating on LinkedIn, on social media, on X, about who wins in all of this, even if OpenAI, let's say, does not make it, the churn that it has seen in the past couple of hours, literally couple of hours, if it's not able to make through that churn and the 500 employees do in fact quit, not join Microsoft or join Microsoft in all of this, who wins? Microsoft is the clear winner.
Absolutely. I think you were the first person to mention this yesterday on the show, and I couldn't agree more with you that the only obvious winner in all this is Microsoft and Satya Nadella. And I think the agility with which the company moved and the dexterity with which it was able to pretty much over the weekend, overnight, get Sam Altman on board Microsoft and really open a new chapter in Microsoft's own research and development of artificial intelligence technologies means that this is a company which is taking organic development of AI seriously and not just looking at inorganic investments or acquisitions in AI, and hence it is now likely to be one of the leading companies when it comes to AI. So,
but before I let you, I know it's a $1 trillion company, so we're talking about a lot of deep pockets, a lot of money. What about the $10 billion it has invested in OpenAI? That money, whatever has been pumped in, continues to remain with OpenAI.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, there are some conflicting reports which are emerging which suggest that not all the 10 million that was promised has actually thus far been credited into the books of OpenAI, and some accounts also suggest that the actual investment, the first investment in fact that Microsoft made in OpenAI was about $1 billion back in 2019, when none of us actually had heard of OpenAI. There was nobody in our lives called Sam Altman, and I think very few people outside of Silicon Valley would have actually known the kind of work that Sam Altman was putting in and his team at OpenAI was putting in to develop generative AI and B2C use cases of AI. And cut to 2022, late 2022, early 2023, and we see ChatGPT is a new revolution, the most used, highly exposed,
written about, talked about, widely utilized,
and a tool that attracted record number of users in the first few days of its launch. That's the kind of success that no other technology platform had ever seen. And then, of course, the rate at which it grew, the rate at which Sam Altman himself became popular, meeting state heads, including coming down to India for an event, for a summit, and really becoming the last word on AI. So Sam Altman is still an open chapter. AI is still an open chapter. Microsoft has opened a brand new chapter in AI research and development, and OpenAI as a company may or may not continue to be relevant, even if it stays open, is something that I believe is how this story is going to unfold.
Right. We're not going to write off OpenAI just as yet, but we'll keep coming back to this story as and more developments come through. But moving on to a story that has been on since 2011, Amway India. It appears that Enforcement Directorate has finally filed a charge sheet, and the charges are very serious. I mean, come to think of numbers here, cheating to the tune of 4,000 crore rupees, siphoning off about 2,859 crore rupees. Amway is saying we are participating in the ongoing investigation. We continue to have faith, we repose faith in the authorities, but not looking very good for Amway.
Not looking good at all, and in fact not surprising as well, Shweta, because these stories have been doing the rounds for the longest time. In fact, even last year, I remember 2022, sometime in July or August, ED had attached about 750 crore rupees worth of Amway assets in its ongoing inquiry. And like you mentioned, 2011 is when we actually saw this whole multi-level marketing pyramid structures come into question, and Amway being pretty much the poster child of pyramid structures being exploited and MLM, multi-level marketing, being exploited, where the real transaction was seldom the goods being sold. And that is exactly what the Enforcement Directorate has also said in its own report. And it very clearly suggests that this was a company which was using sale of goods as a disguise. And it was actually just creating this long, large, looming pyramid structure. And what are these pyramid structures?
So I mean, they are very important to understand, because firstly, could you clarify, is it even legal? Are the pyramid schemes legal?
Yes.
And then how do they make money?
It's a grey area. So multi-level marketing in India continues to be legal if the end goal of that multi-level marketing stroke pyramid structure, as we call it, is to sell goods or services, right? However, there are these borderline cases, Amway being one of them, where these multi-level marketing or pyramid structures are actually used as Ponzi outlets, where the end goal, which is exactly what ED has also mentioned, the end goal is actually not to sell goods, but to actually enroll more and more and more people down the chain, down the hierarchy, and that sort of becomes the pyramid. So how it typically functions, and in the case of Amway, for example, it started with 6 partners on the top of the value chain. These 6 partners decided to come out with products, and these products, mind you, are not cheap products or inexpensive products. These are expensive products priced at, in any case, a rate where it will take very few buyers. Now, what it does is these 6 partners over time enroll more distributors, as they call them, and these distributors are incentivized in perpetuity that your job, you buy X number of products from us, and this pretty much becomes an investment that these distributors are making into the parent company, and they buy a stock of goods. Now, their job is actually not to sell these goods, but to further push these goods down to another chain of distributors that they make. Now, it starts with 6, it goes down to, let's say, 15, that goes down to 45, that goes down. So it's a pyramid. You're not selling anything. You're passing down these goods. and you're getting every next level to take these goods from you. There is no end customer, it seems, who these goods are sold to. It is sold from one level, from the top to the next level, which is broader, to the third level, to the fourth level, and this becomes a pyramid. Now, what is not legal in India are these Ponzi schemes, and which is what this seems to be a borderline case, where the company is saying that it's not a Ponzi scheme and it actually has goods and services and it is going to participate in the ED investigation, but ED is saying that there were no real goods for sale. So I think the whole crux of the matter is, what is illegal is when you take money from your distributors, or you get your distributors or the next level in the pyramid to make investments in the company, and which is what it seems these 4,050 crore rupees are actually the kind of money that has been raised through that entire pyramid downwards up to really get distributors to either buy their enrollment into the scheme or to invest and become some sort of junior partners, very junior partners, and so on. And that has amounted to this 4,050 crore rupees, which seems to be a Ponzi stroke, an illegal front, which was originally documented, slated to sell real goods. But that apparently has not happened. And from this 4,050 crore rupees, which has passed through the chain upwards, 2,800 crore rupees and upwards has actually been siphoned off. So that is the case that ED is booking or charging Amway with, that this is under the Prevention of Money Laundering Act, PMLA. And the case is actually about laundering away 2,800 crore rupees and upwards, siphoning it out into overseas bank accounts.
All right, those are serious charges. But Amway has come out with a statement saying that they are participating, in fact, in the ongoing investigation. That does not really relinquish them from any of those charges, which are,
I think the investigation at some point will come to a conclusion, and we will know what the final sort of,
with the filing of the charge sheet, it has come to a conclusion. I think it will now be with the courts to decide.
And we'll figure out. But just trivia: how many people does Amway sort of
Do you have Amway products?
No, I've never bought. And again,
I have seen Amway products at my home, which it's essentially how you trick people into believing that they are going to create wealth by enrolling more people and enrolling more people. But all these products, they continue to relinquish at home because nobody is actually using them.
Exactly. So I think the incentive is for every distributor to build his or her own chain of distributors, and with more people down the chain, each of them paying some money, that money going to the layer above and the layer above and the layer above, sort of flows through the system. And the act of cheating comes in because apparently these distributors are promised incentives or income in perpetuity. That never happens. Now again, back to the trivia question, how many distributors does Amway have globally? It's a mind-boggling number, Shweta.
Absolutely.
400 million people, 400 million distributors across the world distributing Amway's distribution, if not Amway's products.
And who's buying? Well, that remains a mystery. Let's pull up that statement from Amway. Let's quickly run our viewers through what Amway has said so far. As I mentioned, they've said that the charges are from 2011 onward. The prosecution complaint currently filed by ED pertains to investigation dating back to 2011. And since then, the company has been, in fact, cooperating. They want to reiterate continued confidence in India's legal and judicial system following the due process of law as they pursue their legal right. Amway is also saying that it's proud of its rich history, has about 2,500 employees in India, over 5.5 lakh people that it currently caters to. So that is, in fact, a statement coming in from Amway India. But shifting focus to a story that pertains to the common man of this country. How many jobs are we creating? Are we even creating enough formal jobs? Well, if data is to believe, then India's formal job creation, number of people who were enrolled into EPFO, is at a 6-month low in the month of September, has cooled down consecutively for the month of August as well as September.
That's right, Shweta. So I think the data that you're talking about are new enrollments in the EPFO books. So new enrollments have tapered down consistently from the month of July. July, we saw the figure breach the 1 million mark. We had over 10 lakh new enrollments registered in the EPFO records. And then in the month of August, we saw that number taper down to a little over 9 lakh, and now it has come down to about 8,50,000 or so. So 8,50,000 new enrollments in EPFO records. This is, of course, formal job creation. These are permanent employment employees at organizations. And some numbers are good, but then we'll come to the sort of scary part of it also. The good part of the story is that almost 68% of the new enrollments are actually the youth between the age of 18 to 28. This is as per the CMIE report, or the Center for Monitoring the Economy, a private organization. So this is so 18 to 28 years is the bulk of the new enrollments, fresh enrollments. However, I think the good part also is that that overall unemployment has come down to about 7%. If you remember, during the peak of the pandemic, I'm talking about 2021 or so, we had seen more than double digit. We'd seen almost 12% or so unemployment rates in the year 2021. So that has also significantly come down over time. But I think the moot question really is that at a time when India wants to grow at least at 7.6%, slated to go at 6.5%, then you need to be in a scenario where the jobs coming by way of this demand for growth and the labor intensive jobs need to grow at the same clip as the capital investments being made by the government or by the private sector. So I think those dark sort of theories of too much dependence on machine, too many machines being or earth moving equipment being employed to create highways as opposed to labor being employed to create highways, those old Keynesian sort of economic models come into question again, that while there is capital investment being made, while India is continuing to grow and hoping to grow at 6.5% definitely in 2024 as per estimates, and perhaps even in 2025, then the addition of new workforce is not happening at that 6.5%. If anything, it is tapering off month on month,
at least in
July
the formal
onwards,
market.
at least in the formal market. So I think this whole debate about the nation needing to grow at a faster clip to attain its respective targets of 5 trillion, 7 trillion, 30 trillion by 2047, all the way through 2025. I think all of this will need to come on the back of formal job creation, and this is where at some level it is even the macro global environment which is playing spoiled sports. So IT, which should have inducted a couple of lakh more new joinees this year, has in fact been shedding people. The entire startup ecosystem that we've seen due to this ongoing funding winter has not been able to receive the kind of investments that it had become accustomed to and used to, and hence it is now unable to sustain itself and letting go of people. So at one level, there are fewer people joining the workforce, at least if you look at a 3-month trend line between July to September. And at another level, while the unemployment number is low and low as compared to China, China is looking at 20% unemployment rate. But ideally, it should be growing, and it should be growing almost at the same clip as the rate of growth of the economy.
All right, which is what's not happening at the moment. But also very important to point out, since you talked about capital expenditure, and most of this capital expenditure towards building infrastructure, which employs a whole host of people from not necessarily formal arena, but more informal labor. That number we don't have just
We don't have that number. So that I think should be part of the government's MNR EGA scheme, and this again is informal employment. So these are daily wage workers. I think the data that we have is about formal employment on the payrolls of organizations.
All right. So the data therefore coming in from EPFO suggesting that labor markets not looking very good at this point in time. But before we close this bulletin, important story emerging as far as India's non-basmati rice exports is concerned. We're given to understand there's been a 57% drop in volume, about 60% in value as of September, mainly on the back of duty hike. Now, exports, as I said, in value also dropped about 60% compared to the same month last year. We're talking about September of this year versus September of last year. What's good news is that basmati rice exports have risen by as much as 5.7% in volume and 20.5% in value. Remember, India imposed ban on exports of non-basmati white rice in June in order to buffer up its stock. Minimum export price was also put in, or clubbed in at about 1,200 a ton for basmati rice export, essentially to stop the export of non-basmati white rice. This MEP was later revised to $9,500 a ton. Now, India is expected to continue its restrictions on rice exports into July of 2024. The idea here is to have enough buffer of rice come 2024. Well, with that, it's the end of the show. Thank you very much for watching.